Hey everybody, Jim here from Carolina Little Magazine. Um, Need to apologize. We got started out with our live stream here earlier tonight with BJ Ayers from Trophy Ridge Planer Boards and myself, and for some reason the whole live stream's gone down on us. I'm talking with BJ on my phone right now, and he can't seem to get back on the stream. Jim Webb has had problems, so I don't know if it's a weather, a storm. I don't know what is going on, but we are having some issues right now. And if this does not work out and somebody does not come back on pretty quick, so I don't stay here and talk to myself all night long, we will reschedule it for another evening. So we'll give it a few more minutes and we'll see what happens. I don't know. Like I said, I don't understand what is going on here, but we definitely have some problems. It could be YouTube. Just don't know. I got a viewer on, so if I have a viewer, that means somebody out there is getting our feed. I can't answer any questions yet because I got to get that up on my tablet here. So, and here it is right here. So anyways, we'll see what happens. And we'll see if we can't get something going on here. Jim Webb, his internet's gone down. He's tried to reboot it 3 or 4 times, and that's not working. So I don't believe that Jim's going to be able to make it on tonight. It seems like the last couple of times Jim has tried to get on, he's had some kind of a problem. So hopefully we're going to get that worked out with him. And BJ, like I said, him and I were live streaming, but we weren't having any viewers. And I got looking on my tablet and I had no comments. I didn't even have, actually right now I can see myself on here. So, you know, there was something wrong. I got Genuine Outdoors. He's on right now. So I know Tyler's watching. So apparently I got my end straightened out. If I can just get BJ on or Jim or, you know, somebody to come on and talk to me. You're never prepared. That's why they call it live streaming. You're never prepared for some. Oh, wait a minute. I just saw BJ. Come on. Kick it, BJ. Kick it. He came on for a minute. I don't know. Maybe we're going to get him back here. There he is. You keep popping in, BJ, on my tablet, but I don't see you on my monitor yet. I don't know what that's all about. But, anyways, we will try and get this figured out, guys. You just be patient and just sit there and watch me make a fool of myself, okay? You're not going to get to see that very often, so you might as well take advantage of it right now while you can. It's all a question of pushing the right buttons, which we're not doing. This has just been, it seems like Jim's had a constant problem with one thing or another. But let me see if I can't get this live stream on my thing here. So anybody who's making any comments, I'll be able to keep up with you, okay? So just give me a few minutes here and we'll see what happens. And if anybody's asking any questions, well, then I'll be able to answer them. Sometimes it's faster just to go to your darn phone. See, it's showing up, but it's not showing up here on my tablet. Let me see what everybody wants. BJ's restarting his computer, so hopefully he'll be on here. Eric says I'm watching. All right, Eric. Let's see. I can't get any questions to come up here, Eric. So if anybody's asking anything, if you would answer them, I'm sure they're all hearing what's going on. I cannot get the live stream to come up on my tablet for some reason. I don't understand why. I don't understand why it's not coming up at all. But it's not. We had a 15-minute live stream earlier, but apparently me and BJ were just out there talking to ourselves. And anyways, I know one way I could probably do it a whole lot quicker, and that would be here on my phone. At least that way I'll be able to get everybody's comments. All right. Popped right up on my phone, guys, so it's going to be my tablet that's going to be the issue. Anybody want to buy a cheap tablet? Now I got your comments. All right. Eric and Debbie are talking to themselves. Who else? Wine Outdoors is out there. Bottom Feeders Fishing. We can hear. I was having problems watching on my phone, working fine on PC. Thank you, Nick. I know we're getting into Fayetteville, North Carolina. And let's see. Bottom Feeders Fishing Club. Hey, Mr. Jim. I just want to see if I've missed anything. So a lot of you guys were hearing me out there. Anyways, I'm waiting. I'm going to give BJ a little bit longer. He's restarting his computer. I guess Jim is down. If this was a baseball or football game, we'd be in trouble. So, but I'm going to give them a few more minutes to get on, and we'll see what happens. Anybody that's on right now, this is Carolina Outdoor Magazine TV Live, what was supposed to be our 4th or 5th broadcast, but everybody's having internet issues right now, and I don't understand why, but I've got my end straightened out. But BJ was on from Trophy Ridge Planer Boards up in Virginia, and we're going to talk tonight about his planer boards and tell you a little bit about a really cool technique to use for catfishing and striper fishing, walleye fishing, and he's also going to introduce a new crappie board tonight, or was going to. But listen, if we can't get this thing going tonight, we're going to go ahead and we're going to redo it for another evening, and maybe we'll be able to reschedule it, and we'll just let everybody know way ahead of time. Maybe we'll just go ahead and run it again on this next coming Sunday, and that way everybody has time to know what's going on. Let me check my messages and see what Eric says. Not much questions yet. Now I got my questions up now, Eric. I can see them coming through now. Let's see. Oh, that was Eric. Okay. So we'll see if BJ comes on. If not, let me just tell you next week what's happening. Not next week, but on the 29th, we're going to have Nick Jones from the Bottom Feeders Fishing Club here. He's going to be in the house with us. BJ's back.
I'm here.
All right, folks, we're going to have a live stream tonight. What happened?
I have no idea. I restarted the computer and it started working.
Well,
I don't know.
That's good. It's me and you. We have an audience. We have an audience out there, BJ. They've been asking questions, pulling their hair out, wondering what's going on, and I tried to tell them the best story I could figure out on telling them. So,
okay.
We started out, folks. I'm going to ask BJ to start all over because it was a good story. Like I said, we've got BJ Ayers from the Trophy Ridge Planer Board Company up in Virginia, and he's up there on the mountain. You're up in near Roaring Gap.
Fancy Gap.
Yep, Fancy Gap. That's it. And I'm going to ask BJ to talk to us just a little bit about him, his planer board company, and how he got started. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about his planer boards and some of the rigs that him and I have used fishing. And you guys get ready to ask us some questions. So go ahead, BJ, and take it away.
All right. Hey, everybody. Appreciate y'all listening in to us. And just feel free to ask any question that you've ever thought about. You might be a planer board pro. You might be a novice, an amateur. Just feel free to ask me any question, anything. But really, you know, several years ago when I started striper fishing, of course, like everybody else, I started using planer boards. And really, I don't know that I've ever did anything in the outdoors that obsessed me like planer boards. And I don't know, something fascinated me about that bait being able to go out to the side of the boat while you're trolling. And it's such a great way to catch stripers. So I had used just about every planer board that's ever been made. I had ordered a bunch of different ones, and I thought, you know, I could make something better. And I wanted something that when you catch a fish, you can literally feel the fish, because that's the fun of fishing, that fish fighting. And if you've got a fish that's fighting the board, it just took away from the fun of it. So I set out to design the lightest planer board that I could make. And when you get into the technique and the making of something like this, you know, you try a lot of different materials and a lot of different hole patterns and a lot of different foam. And several trips to the lake, I come up with a board and really love using them myself. Had given some to a couple of friends of mine that really enjoyed them, and decided to turn it into a part-time business at the time. And, you know, being pretty smart in marketing and always thought I'd have a niche for it, I wanted to brand an idea. And when you go into marketing something, you've got to brand that name. So I got 2 registered trademarks with the original clear board and then also Fight the Fish, Not the Board. Then hired an attorney to obtain a patent, and have a patent pending, going through the process right now. And then my next step was to get these boards in the hands of some of the best guides that I could find. And, you know, I picked some in Kentucky around Cumberland Lake, of course, down in South Carolina, Mark Crawford, Jason Bennett, Jeremy Morgan, Jared Harmon, Lance Sasser, a lot of good guys. And then the phone started to ring. Hey, I'm a guide. I want to try these, blah, blah, blah. And guides sell boards. They sell fishing equipment, period. There's no better marketing aspect than that. So I had came up with a medium and a large board. Of course, now I have a small for the Crappie, but the medium was a 4.5 by 9 inch, and the large was a 5.5 by 10.5 inch. And I'm asked this question on a daily basis: why the 2 different sizes? I wanted a guy to be able to pick which board he wanted to use for the type bait that he fishes. In Kentucky, it's not uncommon at Cumberland Lake to fish 2 to 4 inch alewives, and you really don't need to use that big board to fish those smaller baits. Whereas in South Carolina and Georgia, and even in Virginia, we sometimes fish 6, 7, 10, 12 inch gizzard shad, and that's right down the alley for the large board. So it gives somebody an opportunity to pick which size board they want. And another thing to keep in mind, if you typically in the summertime, a lot of people don't realize you can continue using boards you just add weights to the back of the boards, and got to show Jim this technique down at Murray 3 weeks ago, where the fish may be schooled up out in 50 foot of water, 30 feet down, and a planer board, pulling a shad, a gizzard shad, is not going to reach those fish. So you can always add weight. That's where the bigger board would hold up to a 5, 6, 4, 7 ounce sinker. So there's really, I've hit a couple of different niche markets there. And then just this week, introduced the crappie board. When I was in Tennessee last year at the Knoxville Fishing Show, I was bombarded by these crappie guys. Hey, why don't you make a crappie board? So I got to looking into it. And of course I had to, cut the glass down and the acrylic material, and then make the foam smaller, and then downsize everything into a 3.5 by 8 inch board that literally weighs in grams. When I got to studying the crappie guys, they want a board that they don't necessarily want to fish a long way from the boat, but they want it to be light for that light biting, thin lipped crappie. When they grab it, where they can just see the board sort of dart back. And this is what I came up with. So just started selling these. I had 14 pair, and I think I'm got a couple of pair left, and I should get some more up and going next week. But really, that's the start of my business, Jim. I just turned more or less a hobby into a part-time job, into a full-time job. And I just wound up partnering with a company in Colorado who's been selling American-made fishing tackle for 40 years. They're going to help me with the manufacturing and put me in a broader market all through the United States with walleye and catfish. And they're in a bigger manufacturing facility that can handle 800 boards a day, where I'm lucky to do 60 pair a day. So it's a big plus for me, and I'm going to run the social media, the marketing, pro staff and stuff like that, and have fun with it. Marketing's what I love to do.
Right.
So that's pretty much it, Jim.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's the way most of us guys that are in this business got started. We took our passion, we ran with it, whether it's, you with striper fishing, or me with hunting and fishing, or, whatever, and, we've developed it into other things and other businesses. And it's something that we enjoyed so much, we wanted to make a living at it. And, that for me is a lot of how I got started in the business I'm in, starting off hunting and fishing, and now we make tackle, and you make planer boards. So anyways, we go ahead.
It's a lot of hard work, and I'm not in it to fish professionally. I love to teach people. I like to see people catch fish. I love the instructional side to it. That is what fascinates me. I'm not in it to become a professional striped bass fisherman. Don't really care nothing about that. I want somebody to enjoy my planer board and catch a lot of fish with it. That's all I care about.
All right. We need to dive right into the planer boards themselves. Nick Jones from the Bottom Feeders Fishing Club just asked a question. He says, can you hold up one of the planer boards a little bit closer so the audience can see what they are, and while you're doing with that, explain to them what they're seeing? Okay. I mean, okay. It's a piece of foam on a piece of plastic, but that you talked about in one of the shows we did, being special foam, and how you can, it's impossible to sink it or for it to absorb water. Okay.
This is the 3.5 by 8 inch crappie board, and I'll hold this up to the webcam. I know it probably looks big to you all out there, but it's a 3.5 by 8 inch. Like I said, it weighs in grams. And this is the 4.5 by 9 inch. And then this is the 5.5 by 10.5 inch. I sell more of the 5.5 by 10.5 inch, naturally because of this new catfish planer craze. This has really helped the sales out of this board. And you have 3 different sizes of foam. And you sort of get the choice, of what your style of fishing is, or what size bait, or how much weight you pull. And to tell you a little bit about the board, and I'll use a medium board. This is an unbreakable acrylic material. And due to my patent pending process, I'm not going to go into the material, but I do guarantee full money back, unbreakable. If your buddy steps on it, if he sits on it, this will never break. You can go on my YouTube channel and watch one of my videos. I run over it with a truck. You know, it's
kind of
totally
like that
unbreakable.
flashlight they have on TV.
Exactly. And I mean, when a lot of people were disbelievers in this material until I made that video. That video's had nearly 10,000 views. And that's when my business changed. When I showed people that I could run over this with a truck, with my boat hooked to the truck, I added another 5,000 pounds. It's not going to break. You know, I hadn't had a broke board this entire year, and I've sold thousands of sets. So anyway, enough on the board. The foam is something different that's never been tried in the planer board industry, to my knowledge. It's and I'm not going to get into real logistics, but it's a real high floating, high buoyancy foam made out of polyurethane. It's great foam. And what's great about this foam is during the course of it being in the water, it will absorb some water. So every couple of hours, if you bring in to change your bait or you catch a fish and you get the board back up, you can just squeeze it towards the glass and a little bit of water will come out and it'll go back. This board will never sink. I did a demo one time where I sunk it in a 5-gallon bucket with a brick for hours. I took the brick out, it floated right back to the top. Totally impossible to sink this board. And what's great about the big board, you get more foam. So this is why this foam will hold, guys, those heavier sinkers wanting to get that bait down 30 feet to 40 feet of water. Right. You know, I've got guys out there now fishing 8-ounce disc sinkers with a half a section of 12-inch gizzard shad, and this board still pulls true, will not sink. Bear in mind, the more weight you put on it, you know, it's going to be out there. It's going to act different. I mean, when I set out to design planer boards, I never even dreamed that these guys would be pulling a pound of weight behind this board. So, you know, that's what helps it float high and run out true to the back of the boat. So that's pretty much it. Of course, right. I use a Scotty clip, and I've used all the clips, and I'm in business now with Scotty. Love the clip. It's 2-tension release clip. Of course, this is in the light tension. Pull the back out, and that tightens the pads up. Plus, you get the ability to put the line in the pad at different areas to help with that. Right. Give you an example. Let's say you're crappie fishing. You would want it in the light tension, open the pads, and just barely in the pad. Whereas if you're catfishing, 8-ounce sinker, half a section of gizzard shad, you pull it out and put the line on down in the pad. So all stainless steel, screws, Teflon washers, the rings, everything stainless steel. I didn't never want anybody to call me and say, hey, my rings are rusted up or my screws got rust on it. Everything is stainless steel.
Okay. Nick wants to know also, he's probably going to ask most of the question tonight because he's very interested in what you're doing. And also, he wants to try to fish the Cape Fear River with your planer board. So okay. We may even get into some of that, but he wants to know what is a good speed to troll while using the planer boards. And I think we had talked about it being somewhere around 0.5 to 0.7 somewhere. But he also wanted to know, and for those with no trolling motor, any tips?
All right. The great thing about my planer boards, you know, I have trolled them in Minn Kota language, which is what a lot of the guys are using now on their trolling boats. 0.3, which is typically a 1/4 mile an hour or less. Now, there will be times where I'll pick that speed up on real active fish and troll at 0.7 or a little more than a 1/2 mile an hour. But I have trolled these boards for walleye with deep diving crankbaits at a mile, mile and a half an hour. I just talked to a guy yesterday off the coast of Virginia Beach who has been trolling my planer boards at a mile and a half to 2 mile an hour for those big 50-pound striped bass out there. So really, you know, anything from crawling to 2 miles an hour you can do with this board. Now, you're talking about the Cape Fear River, any type of river. You know, there's two things have got to happen for a planer board to work. You got to be fishing where there's current, or you've got to be trolling. So you can even in a river, if you're fishing off the bank, use a planer board. You know, planer boards don't work when you're sitting still. You know, the whole idea and the physics behind it is water pushes on this would be the port side and pulls it out. And then starboard side or vice versa pulls it out. So anytime you have current, it's going to work. The thing you got to remember, if you're in a boat fishing where there's current, a planer board is going to be different than what it is on a lake. If you think you're at that half mile an hour, you might need to go slower, or the board will literally outrun the boat while you're moving along. But
Right.
if you were anchored down in the river, you can put this board out and fish it where there's current. And I get that question a lot.
Right.
And if you're on the Cape Fear River and there's current and you're anchored down, this board will work. You got to think about the physics of it.
Right. Let the river do the work for you, because
Exactly.
instead of you moving, just go ahead and let the current put your boards out, and you can put out 4 or 5 boards, 6 boards on some of the rigs that we used a couple weeks ago, and just let the current, you know, bring them out in different areas. You can cover the whole. I don't think you could put 6 boards in the Cape Fear River, but
I'll tell you an interesting story right quick, Jim. Last spring, I've got a big supporter, David Farley, that lives up at Smith Mountain Lake, and he dominates the tournaments up around Smith Mountain Lake. Last spring, he won every tournament up there with my boards, going up to the river and ditching the boat and putting those planer boards out in the river end, the Roanoke River part of Smith Mountain Lake.
from the shore.
Where there was current. Absolutely.
From the shore.
Well, what they do is they drive their boat up. They're still
Right.
in the boat because by tournament
okay.
law, you got to be in the boat. They're
Okay,
still
okay.
in the boat. They don't get out on land. They're just fishing the boards in the current.
Okay.
You know, that's
Okay.
legal.
That is a really good idea right there.
It's
I can see myself doing some new techniques this year.
Yeah.
What I want to do is I want to get to talking about how to use the boards for catfishing, because I know we've got a fair amount of. I mean, a lot of guys have seen us doing the striper shows, and they've seen us doing the planer boards with the striper shows. But I want to talk about catfishing and crappie fishing, because that's something new right now. To me, it is. I mean, I'm used to drift fishing with the Santee Cooper rig and a drift sock, and now all of a sudden guys are using planer boards. So let's talk a little bit about that. I've got kind of a rig here that I made up, and I don't know how good it's going to show on the camera, but one thing I wanted to ask you, I never followed it through when we were out fishing here a couple weeks ago. I've seen a lot of guys, and what they'll do is they'll put out 25 to 30 feet of line, then their planer board. Where you, I mean, they'll have that much leader, where what you do is you put a bead, you use about 3 to 4 feet of line, you've got your hook tied on, and there, I've got to find the camera, and you've got about, I think it was 3 or 4 feet of line, probably 15-pound test, I think that's what we use.
Yep.
Then you put a swivel on.
Yep.
And a bead.
Yep.
And then from that point, you let out how much line you want.
How far you want the bait behind the board.
Right. Now, if you were going to be using this rig right here for catfishing, BJ, I guess you would put the weight here with the...
You would put the weight in between the swivel and the bead.
The swivel and the bead. Okay. Yep. So you would still have this 3 or 4 foot piece of leader line down there just
Yes.
kind of freely floating.
Yes, below the sinker.
Okay, now go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you would set up the planer boards for catfishing. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to learn something tonight.
Okay. Well, you know, the first thing I want to say is everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have their technique. I can go fish with some guys who want that bait 5 feet behind the board. That's not me. I don't care if I'm striper fishing or whatever I'm fishing for, walleye, catfish, or whatever. I'm going to have that bait at least 15 to 25 feet behind the board. And I'm just headstrong in my ways of doing that. I just think it works better. But on the catfish rig, you're going to be using the sinker. I just don't think there's many catfish that run around on the surface. So if you come across some catfish that you wanted to catch and you marked them at 30 feet and they were 2 feet above the bottom and you're in 30 feet of water, I would start off at 25 feet with like a, I don't know, maybe a 4 to 6 ounce sinker. And you got to keep in mind, the main word in trolling is blowback. Blowback happens with downriggers and it happens with planer boards. And what blowback is the planer board moving or the downriggers and the boat moving. There's no bait in the world that's just going to stay straight down. Blowback is that distance that it starts to go behind the board. So you got to figure that into your equation. If I'm in 30 feet and marking fish at 28 feet and I know they're catfish, it's pretty safe to say 25 feet behind the board with a 4 ounce sinker crawling at 0.3 or a quarter mile an hour is going to keep that bait down there just above those fish. 90% of the fish that we fish for will hit the bait up, you know, with the exception of catfish. You know, they may lazy around the bait a little bit below it or above it and hit it. But, you know, you got to look at so many different factors. How fast am I going to be? How deep are the fish? Are they active or non-active? So a lot goes into that. And really in the instructional aspect of planer boards, that's a tough call because every day is different and every fish is different. But I feel like I can explain it in a way where if you just think about blowback, get an idea of how far that bait is behind the board and under the board for the speed that you're fishing. I hope that answered that. You see what I'm saying there, Jim, with that?
Okay. I'm getting a feedback. You get a volume up there a little bit high or something? Okay, it stopped. Let's see here. I'm just trying to catch up on some questions. And what kind of style weight would you use? Well, I don't think, if I can answer that question, I don't think I would use the flat weights, Nick, because I think what them weights are going to do is as you're trolling or in the current seeing, you're going to have them suspended. I think they're going to twirl in the water. And I'm not sure if you want that for that type of fishing. I think probably a barrel sinker, BJ, is the best thing to use for that type of a technique.
Well, for stripers, definitely the barrel. Believe it or not, Jim, for the catfish, these guys are using disc sinkers.
They're using what?
Disc, D-I-S-K sinkers.
You're talking about the flat ones that lay flat on the bottom. I've seen them using them, but I just didn't know if you would get some line twist with them.
Well, the swivel is going to help out with that.
Okay.
But I think they want that for catfishing. And the videos that I see some of these pro cat guys doing on YouTube, they're using disc sinkers. They sure are. And I don't know, maybe it's the action that's helping. You know, maybe it sort of goes behind the planer board like that.
It could be. Could be. All right. I hope that answered your question there, Nick. Anyway, so, all right. And striper fishing, of course, that's a whole different technique. Now, I know a couple weeks ago when we were out fishing, at first we were using just the herring, the swivel, and the bead with our leader. And, you know, that would be getting us down to what, 3-4 feet or so, because at first the stripers were kind of busting the top of the water early in the morning. Now,
You're
later
right.
during the day, I know you added some weight on.
Yes.
To get us down deeper.
Yes. You know, you can drag a blueback or a gizzard shad 10 feet above a striper, and if he's mid-active, chances are he's never going to come up for it. Whereas if you get that weight down and you get it going by him 2 feet above his head, you know, you usually will strike gold with that. And I'm one of those guys. I tell you how this works, Jim. With a 3-rig setup, 3 on the right, 3 on the left, the rig that's on the bank, the one closest to the bank, which is typically 125 feet from the back of my boat, that one will have no weight because naturally we're going to be fishing shallower water because it's closer to the bank. The next board, and I have my rods and reels, you know, special made for this. The next board,
okay. We should be back. We just lost our connection for a minute.
Okay.
BJ, and I think it just came back.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, for some reason it went out on us, and we should be back now.
Okay. On that.
Are we back, guys? Somebody let us know if me and BJ are back. Okay, I believe we are, but anyway.
Okay.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
On that 3 planer board setup, right and left, the one that's closest to the bank, which is typically 125 feet from the back of my boat, that one's going to have no weight because naturally I'm fishing shallower water. The second board, which is about 90 to 100 feet from the back of my boat, I might slip a 1/4 ounce sinker on there just to keep the bait down. And then on the next board, which is 75 feet from the back of the boat, I might add a 1/2 ounce or a 1 ounce. And, you know, like if I got to go fishing this week and in one of the Virginia lakes, I believe I'd fish heavier weights. I might go on that middle board with a 1/2 ounce and then maybe a 3/4 ounce on the one closest to the boat.
Okay.
So
all right.
Look at it as you take all the water out of your spot and you're looking at the bank. You wouldn't want to fish up a 1/2, 3/4 ounce sinker on the one closest to the bank because you're going to get hung in some trees. You want that bait to ride above the trees on the one closest to the bank.
Right. But well, in most cases, the closer to the bank you are, the shallower the water. But I guess it helps also to know where you're putting your planer boards out too, because some rivers, you know, close to the bank have got deeper water, so it just really matters.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, let's go and let's talk about crappie fishing. I don't know if Alan Greer from the Triad Bait Company is watching. Let's see, Outdoor Sportsman. Somebody just joined us. I don't know what that meant, but anyhow, let's talk about that because I think Alan Greer may be watching us tonight, and you know Alan, and he was wanting to do, and as a matter of fact, folks, we are going to be doing some crappie fishing. Let's see, me and Jim Webb are going to be duck hunting next week, so the week after we're going to be getting together with BJ and heading out to a lake someplace, and we are going to be doing some crappie fishing with his crappie planer boards. So let's talk about some of the tips and some of the techniques we might use when we're out there. And we don't know where we're going, but we're going to figure it out.
Well, you know, Jim, I'm not out to tell anybody a story about anything. I'm not a crappie guy. I'm wanting to get into this, and I knew when I was going to design a crappie board from all the feedback that I got last year, how I was going to design it. And last year I was at Murray in March, and I was out striper fishing on Sunday, me and my dad, before we come back home. We just wanted to fish for several hours that morning before we come back home. And I was watching some guys crappie fish with planer boards, and, you know, it's, of course, a lot of the crappie guys that really get into it will use the spider rigs. And to me, what's cool about this crappie fishing with a planer board, the number one rule benefit that I see is you're getting the bait away from the boat. To me, it seems like that's important with crappie because you're fishing these treetops or these brush piles where there's multiple crappie there. And what's cool about these boards, you don't have to fish the line a long way from the behind the board. You can add weight to get it down. But the main important part is how light biting they are. You want to be able to see the most subtle movement of the board to let you know that he's got a fish. And I can't wait for this trip in a couple of weeks, Jim, with Alan, because Alan is a lot more experienced with crappie fishing, way more than I am. And I'm going to learn from him. I just knew and tested this board with 4 or 5 of them at one time, how slow a guy could crawl over a brush pile and it work out good. So
I'd like to get Alan on here for a stream one night. You know, I'm sure he would have a lot of valuable information for people. He seems to think though that we would have trouble on High Rock Lake because of the brush piles. You think that's an issue? It probably is. Well,
yeah, it could be. It's definitely going to be an issue if you fish them, you know, way behind the board. It just depends on that day. Are the fish, are they deep in that brush, or are they outside it, or are they above it, or to the sides? You know, could we get boards through there with the jigs or the minnows that are just skirting the sides of it and the fish grab it? It's not that would be scared to get it hung up in there. It just take a little technique working it around those brush piles.
Right. I'll tell you, I've been seeing some really good posts from Clark's Hill. I just sent Alan some tonight.
On crappie fishing?
Crappie and white perch. And I mean, I'm talking as big as my iPad here, probably 12 inches, and they were nice fish. There's a website down there, CSVA Fishing Network or something like that. I don't know if you follow them or not, but I do. And they're always posting, you know, what's going on at Clark's Hill and Lake Murray and in the river. And it's a good one to watch, but they've been catching some awful big crappies down at Clark's Hill.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So I don't know where we're going to end up, what lake it'll be, but him and I will get together as soon as me and Jim get back from this hunt next week.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah. It's going to be fun. I can't wait for that. We'll figure it out, I'm sure. But we'll just let Alan. I done told him to have his boat rigged and ready to go, and he told me whenever we're ready. So I guess I'm holding everybody up. No, it's fine. It's fine. I've been seeing some crappie coming up on Facebook from down south. You know, it should start creeping northward. You know, as these weeks go on, the crappie fishing will get better.
Here, real quick, I want to acknowledge somebody. 39 Camper. He just joined in on our stream right here, and I don't get to communicate with him much, but I want to thank him for tuning in. Good to see you on there watching us this evening. I watch a lot of his YouTube stuff he puts on there. He does a lot of just like survival things and things like that. So he's got a real good YouTube page. But Nick told us, he says, Sharon Harris, we took the kids and caught some shoe-sized perch and crappies. Can't wait to put the boards on to work. So,
oh wow.
So that's another lake I never even thought about was Sharon Harris, and that that's a really. Have you ever fished it?
I have, back in my pro bass days. It's a real nice lake. Oh, it's a big bass machine.
Maybe we need to think about that. Maybe
yeah, you know, Jim, no joke. My biggest largemouth. You know, I've been fanatic fisherman since I was able to walk. My biggest largemouth came from Sharon Harris. In a tournament.
Right. I'll have to talk to Alan about that, but we'll figure it out. But what kind of rods? I guess when you're crappie fishing, you're going to use planer boards. You probably don't want to use the big, long B&M rods, I don't believe, because they're going to have too much give on the tip. You probably want to use a stiffer spinning reel with probably, 8-pound test line?
That's what I was thinking, 6 or 8. I know what you're talking about with the B&Ms. And I was out last fall trying out this board. And I'll be honest, what I did when I was trying this board, Jim, I used a fly rod. I used a 10-foot fly rod. And the reason I done that, just in case that guy that's got one of those long, thin-tip B&M rods was using it, I wanted to make sure that the board, and to be straight up with you, the board actually traveled better with one of those long. Of course, I'm one of those guys, the longer the rod, the better for me. I like long rods for all types of fishing. I'm not into short rods. But I think it's going to work either or. You know, I'd keep those, if you're going to use a spinning rod, I'd keep it no shorter than 7 foot. You know, to help
Jones,
anytime you get a.
Go ahead.
Well, just anytime that you get a, you're using a planer board, your main goal is keeping line off the water. A planer board is going to work way better under all circumstances if the line is not touching the water. And naturally, the longer the rod, the water's out, the line's out of the water.
Okay. Nick Jones has just invited us to go to Sharon Harris to, I guess, crappie fish. Maybe catfish. He catfishes there too. So I'll have to get together with Nick and see what he's got up his sleeve. But says, let's do a show down here at Sharon Harris for sure. So he says, he even said he'll supply the boat. Now that's the deal we can't pass up there, BJ.
That's right. That's right.
So
that's exactly right.
But Nick, you'll like Nick. He's a pretty good guy. He can't get catfish to the boat very well, but other than that, he's a pretty good guy. But he probably knew that was going to happen tonight. But anyhow, we'll probably end up doing that. But we'll set some things up here. You give me another week, and this thing with Captain Froggy there has been going on for about 2 months. So we need to get down there and get him taken care of and get some shows done for him. So that's going to be something that me and Jim are just going to have a real good time. And I've got another guy going. It's going to be exciting because I got Steve Sharon from Adventure Outdoors going down with us. And I don't think you know him, but he's got the Adventure Outdoors YouTube channel. And he's a real comedian. So I can't imagine what kind of a couple of days we're going to have. He's going to film for us, and he's even going to try to duck hunt. So we'll see how that works out. But what else do we need to talk about on the planer boards? Now, listen, we talked about, I know we're getting away from the planer boards, but we talked about the Super X floats here a little bit.
Yep.
Do you want to, there's all kinds of different ones right here.
Yep.
That's another technique for catfishing there, Nick, that, something that you might want to listen to here. That's we caught some stripers on them things.
Well, the cool thing about the, of course, I'm partnered with Double X Tackle, and this is American-made fishing tackle, floats that are made in Colorado. Great company. This is a stemmed version of the Super Float. You can see it's got a stem on it, and this is the non-stemmed. And they make 4 colors, green, fluorescent red, white, and then white and red. But I know Jim had done a wonderful video that's on my YouTube channel that describes fishing with this thing pretty good. And here's what it boils down to in the striper world. Let's just say you're out striper fishing and you've got 6 boards out, 3 on the right, 3 on the left, and they're running parallel to the boat. You've got this section of water behind you that you're not doing anything with. Why not put something out there and maybe catch a fish like me and Jim did? And you could free line a shad with nothing, just free line on one side of the boat. And then on the other side of the boat, you put a super float. And, what's great about this super float, it's going to hold any size bait. And it has a stop. So I fish it with a swivel, the same rig as I do with the planer board, but this is going to be taking the place of the planer board. And something neat that they've got in this pack is called a gizmo stop, and you can adjust how high this or how low the bait will sink below the float with the gizmo stop. And I'll try to get this thing out and put it up to the camera. It's a very small piece. You may or may not be able to see it.
I don't know if that's going to show up or not, but good luck.
But it's a little piece, yeah, it's a little piece of plastic that's got a bunch of holes in it, and you feed your line through these holes like you were quilting, and it stops the float at whatever depth you set it at. You can see they've got the stop there.
Yep, there you go.
And that day that me and Jim were fishing, I had them set between 6 and 8 feet. So when you feed the bait out there, it's going to go down to 6 feet and stop. The gizmo stop above it will stop it, and it's impossible to show you this on the cam, but it'll stop it right there. And then there's a little bead that you put in between the bottom. And if you're fishing a sinker, you know, if you're fishing a float like this, you do need to fish some type of sinker, a 1/4 ounce, a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce, just to keep the bait below the float. If you didn't, right, this thing would just ride up shallow next to the float.
Right.
And you got to fish some type of weight.
Right. And we had used that, excuse me, we had used that striper fishing a few weeks ago on Lake Murray. And we had, you know, some guys might be thinking, you know, well, that's a lot of stuff to have out over the boat, and it's going to get hung up, going to get tangled up. But BJ has a system, the way he puts planer boards out, and we're going to have a video coming up here in probably about another few days, and we'll be posting it on YouTube. And BJ has done a video on explaining to you how to position your planer boards out. And when we fished on Lake Murray back here a couple weeks ago, we had 3 planer boards on each side of the boat, guys, and we had the super float on the back, and we never once hung a line up, because the way BJ shows you on how to put your planer boards out, it's a flawless system. It really is. It really worked good.
Yeah, it's and you know, with a little experience, you learn that system. You know, the board that's farthest away from the boat, the one running the bank, you want it in the back rod holder. The next one in the middle, you want it on the rod holder closest to the front of the boat, and then the next one will be even further towards the front of the boat. That way, if a fish hits, you can go under and the fish will go directly to the back of the boat, and you bring the fish in. It's all about technique and a little experience. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I had a cluster. If you work it right, and it works pretty flawlessly.
Right. Yeah, it sure does. And you know, we caught a fish on, I think it was on the outside rod, and because the lines were up, you was able to bring him right in underneath the other lines. Because one thing that's important that BJ will tell you is that you don't want your lines dragging in the water to your planer board. You want to get your rod up high enough.
Hello?
All right, BJ, can you hear me?
You back with me? Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
I don't have a clue. I had to restart. You were here because I was watching you on my tablet. Well, now you're gone again. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, all right.
I'm here.
So I don't know what happened. Then Nick went ahead and he texted me and told me that he lost me again. So it seemed like everybody tonight, guys, and I really apologize, but that's one of the problems, one of the issues you have with live streaming. We never had this problem the other night that we, the past couple times we've done it. It just seems for some reason tonight, and I don't understand why. But anyways, you got anything else you'd like to say tonight? And we've been on here for a little over an hour or so, and let me see if there's any questions we need to catch up with here, BJ, before we go out again. Everybody's wondering where we were. BJ, can't see you. Yep. Okay, I guess anybody have any more questions that they would like to ask BJ tonight or myself? And if there is, go right ahead. And while you're thinking of a question to ask BJ, let me tell you about what's going to happen here on the 29th on the next live stream. And hopefully we'll get some of these uplink issues solved. But on the 29th of January, which will be 2 Sundays from now, we will be having Nick Jones from the Bottom Feeders Fishing Club joining us on the stream. And I guess probably because Nick is the president of the Bottom Feeders Fishing Club, we're going to be mainly talking about catfishing tips, and catfishing techniques. So that's what's going to be happening on the 29th, 2 weeks from now. Then on February 5th, we're going to change it up a little bit, and we're going to have Josh Bias from Calculated Killers in the house. And we're going to be talking about deer hunting. We're going to be talking about food plot management. And we're going to be talking about tree plant management, how to make a mock scrape. And Josh is a real knowledgeable person. And with these guys, it's not just go out and throw some corn out. In North Carolina, we can bait with corn. So it's not just go out and throw some corn out, get in a tree and shoot a deer. The day after deer season, his team is out in the woods and they are already getting ready for the next year's season of hunting. So that's going to be a real interesting show. And we're going to try to put something in between right here. I think maybe over the weekend coming up. Now we can't do it then, but maybe Wednesday, somewhere in there, Thursday. I'm going to try like heck to get Jim Webb on here, and him and I are going to talk about what we're going to be doing when we get ready to go on our duck hunt to Palmico Sound this coming weekend. And we'll show you some of the stuff we're going to use, the different shotguns we're going to have, and things like that. So it's just going to be just a short, informative live stream for anybody who might want to jump in there and just check it out and see what's going on. In that length of time, let's see, I'll let you know on that Genuine Outdoors if I can join your live stream on Wednesday. I don't know. I'll have to check my schedule. I will share it up and help you guys. Bottom Feeders Fishing Club. Thank you, Nick Jones. And I don't know. I guess people are running out of things to say. You got anything more? You want to say something about some of your sponsors and some of the folks there that help you out on your end, BJ?
Yeah, Double X Tackle, they're in Colorado. They make a great catfishing arsenal of floats. Anything you could imagine. And if you like to troll, walleye, striped bass, or just any type of trolling, they make great trolling equipment. Check their website out. It's Double X Tackle. They do have a brand new website they're fixing to launch by the end of January. So it's doublextackle.com. You will see a new website here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a little bit more modern than what they have had. But keep on keeping on. You know what I mean, Jim?
There was a question that somebody asked. I think it was my wife back here. you haven't told anybody how they can purchase your planer boards.
Oh, trophyridgeplanerboards.com.
Okay.
And I do have an eBay site. I don't recommend anybody going to eBay to buy. I mean, I'd rather go to my store and buy it. I actually have them. They're a little bit more expensive on eBay because the eBay fees are just so expensive. But to go to the website, you'll get the true retail price of the boards, trophyridgeplanerboards.com. And it's a great site. I keep it up to date every day. Some cool pictures, some cool videos on there. And you can order the boards. It's completely secure. McAfee secure. So there's no threat danger of credit cards, or you can also do PayPal on there, or you can mail a check to me.
And these planer boards, folks, are not as expensive as you might think they are. You sell them in pairs, and pretty sure you can buy a pair of BJ's planer boards for what you can buy a single unit for, just about. So they're really reasonably priced.
Yeah, the Crappie boards, Jim, are $50 a pair. The medium boards are $55 a pair, and the large boards are $60. You get all the hardware, and you do get a port and a starboard side, a right and a left.
Right, and them clips are expensive. Them darn clips are $5 or $6.
Yeah, if you go online just to buy the clip. Of course, I do sell the clips only on my site, but yeah, they're expensive.
Okay, so just remember that, guys. They're not as expensive as what you might think. I mean, a lot of people, that might be expensive, and yes, it is. But try some of the other planer boards out there. But anyhow, before we leave, I'd like to mention a few people. I want everybody to remember Alan Greer at the Triad Bait Company. He's one of our sponsors, and Alan has the hair jigs for striper fishing, and I think Alan is also carrying your Trophy Ridge planer boards, as well as the herring hunt down in South Carolina, and I think Palmetto Sportsman
Palmetto Angler.
And they're carrying them. So
there's a place near you, Jim, at Concord, Ideal Sportsman. They have them now.
Okay.
In Concord.
They're fairly close. They're not that close, but anyways, I want to just say thanks to Alan Greer for his the help that he's given us, and we'll be getting out there on the boat with Alan in a few weeks. I'd like to thank Nick from the Bottom Piers Fishing Club in Tyler, and Camper 3049 33, or you know who you are there, and for tuning in tonight. And I just would like to thank everybody that's given us their support, and it's been really great. So, BJ, it's been fun.
Yes, sir, Jim. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a bunch.
We'll do this again when we get out crappie fishing. We'll do some stuff then, so people will have you back on here. So,
you bet.
Like always, folks, I'm Jim from Carolina Outdoor Magazine TV Live. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for your support. Please keep on watching, and when you need some planer boards, go see BJ Ayers, and if you want some striper jigs, go see Alan Greer at the Triad Bait Company. Thanks for watching. I'm Jim from Carolina Outdoor Magazine TV. We'll catch you somewhere next week in the great outdoors when we do it all again. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.